Going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Wednesday edition of the Stokastic NHL Strategy Show. I am your host, Josh Harris. It appears I have fixed my internet. I couldn't help but laugh because I went back and looked at the show from yesterday, and someone commented, "It's like, does Josh live in Siberia? I've never seen someone with such bad internet." If I lived in Siberia, I think my internet would be better. I'm on the edge of service in rural New Jersey. Like, my neighbors down the street have to use satellite. So, like, if there's, like, a cloud in the sky, it doesn't work. So, it's a nice day out. Looks like my connection's good. Here I am. How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, it's funny how technology, the more it intrudes on our lives, the more it's intrusive. There are days I wish the olden days of the 28.8 kbps modem, but we're not here to talk internet connections. We are here to talk about hockey. 6 games on the docket tonight. Weird week in the NHL because it's trade deadline week. If people are just DFS players and they don't pay super close attention to the daily goings on of the NHL, it is trade deadline week. There have been a lot of big trades basically over the last 2 weeks, but especially over the last 5 days. And then there are a bunch yesterday after we went off the air. I think Jesse Puljujarvi was traded from Edmonton while we were on the air. He's going to Carolina. Toronto is just stockpiling defensemen like they're Pokemon. We had some pretty big deals go down yesterday. We saw Matthias Ekholm go from Nashville to Edmonton. Looks like Josh might have frozen out a little bit on us. I'll try to get him back when we can. There were a lot of significant trades, and I think it's important to bring that up because there are guys that are going to be moving teams, and sometimes they're going to be in the lineup right away. Sometimes they're not. We just got word before we came on the air that Lars Eller was traded from Washington to Colorado, and they're trying to get him in the lineup for tonight. Whether he's in the lineup or not, we're probably not going to find out until close to warm up. But that is part of the problem of a week like this is, Lars Eller, there's not a reasonable chance, but there's a chance that he could just step in and be the second line center for Colorado tonight. Now, I'm not expecting it. I expect he'll start as the third line center and then maybe move his way up in a few games or something like that. But that's just part of the problem. And we'll talk about it game by game. But Patrick Kane not playing tonight for the New York Rangers. He's going to make his debut. I think the Rangers play tomorrow. So he's not playing tonight. Timo Meier not playing tonight following his trade to New Jersey. So we'll go through that game by game, but it is something to keep note of, and we'll try to mention it during every game because there are players that are traded that will be in the lineup, and there are players that night, and there are players that are traded that will not be in the lineup. As I was mentioning, like your Patrick Kane on your New York Rangers, he will not be playing for the Rangers here tonight, but they're saying Lars Eller might be for Colorado. So you have to take it game by game. And, there could be a small advantage there depending on what players we're talking about. Like, I wouldn't be, creating lineups tonight with the intention of maybe late swapping to Lars Eller. You know what I mean? That's not something that I would be doing for DFS. But, Timo Meier, they said he's almost certainly not going to play tonight. Maybe he is. Very small chance he could be. So in that sense, maybe if you want to make like, a New Jersey and a Carolina lineup, focusing on the late games, maybe try to play Timo Meier, very low ownership. And then if he's out, you could swap over to, Colorado Vegas or Colorado Anaheim or something like that. Like, there are things you can do that. I would do it for a player like Timo Meier. I wouldn't do it for a player like Lars Eller. And I think that's something important to delineate between in this special season where there are so many guys getting traded every day.
Yeah, a lot of moving parts. Even there are a couple guys on the Ducks being held out for trade reasons. Usually we get that news before lock, which is nice, but we'll keep you abreast to the situation. Let's get into this slate, but before we do, got a $4.99 super chat from Brett. Thank you very much. Not a big DK guy, but I've won 3 underdog BRs. I don't know. It was like round robins or whatever in the puck streets over the last few weeks. Thanks as always for all the info. Thank you. Not sure. There's some stuff on Underdog that's not legal in New Jersey, so I'm not sure what you're talking about, but congrats. Oh, Battle Royales. Yeah, that's not legal. That's not legal in New Jersey, so I can't play it, but congrats to you. There is some stuff, like if you aren't a big DFS guy, there's still stuff you can do on these sites that pertain to the information on the show. So, congrats to you. Thank you for the super chat.
Yeah, just not on Monkey Knife Fight anymore. RIP MKF. They had a pretty good run. They kind of boosted the prop profile when DFS was really starting to break out there like 7 or 8 years ago or whatever. So RIP MKF, but we're not here to talk about them. We're here to talk about Prize Picks. We're here to talk about DFS, and we're here to talk about, I want to say 6 interesting games. I think it's 5 interesting games, and then Washington's in Anaheim. But we'll get through them one by one.
Yeah, and just remember, before we get into this, we have a brand new Odd Shopper betting show that is on the air Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, called The Odd Shop. Laffy, Ben, Greg, Eric. It's not going to be all of them at the same time. There'll be 2 of them on today. A10 and former Iowa State University caddy Eric Lindquist on today. And they'll break down the night's best bets using premium Odd Shopper tools and data. So make sure to check out that 4 p.m. Eastern on the Odd Shopper channel every day, Monday through Friday. I'm seeing Timo is out tonight per left wing lock. And like the beat writers said that he's probably out. I wouldn't go by left wing walk or DFO because they're going off what everyone else is saying until you see, like, I don't know, Amanda Stein say definitively Timo Meier upper body injury out. There's still a chance. So you're telling me there's a chance. But let's get into this slate. First game of the night. New York Rangers going into Philadelphia. Rangers have a 3.5 total. The Flyers have a 2.5 total. Igor Shesterkin, Carter Hart confirmed. As Cliffy mentioned, Patty Kane is out tonight. So Barclay Goodrow, one last spin in the top 6 before he's banished to the 4th line tomorrow. Rangers going Kreider, Zibanejad, Tarasenko, Trocheck, Panarin, Goodrow, and then the Kitties. The Flyers have lines, but they don't stick to them. So your guess is as good as mine. They also said, Torts said that Elliot, what is this guy's name? Elliot Desnoyers is going to be on the power play tonight, one of the units. I don't know much about him, but I don't think, this is the best matchup for the Flyers here tonight. Igor Shesterkin, not having a great season by Igor metrics, but he's still having a very good season. I'm more on the Rangers side here, but not a great power play matchup.
Yeah, it's not. And this is just a disaster of a matchup not a matchup, just a disaster of a situation for Philadelphia. Going 11-7 is bad enough because that just builds in, line changes and different line combinations. Like there's nothing you can do about it. It's just going to happen all game long. And then on top of that, you have they had Kevin Hayes and James Van Riemsdyk, quote unquote, on the fourth line, basically being the two spare forwards with, I don't know, Desnoyers and Brown and Delorier as the third line, which, like, if that's your third line and you're rotating guys through JVR and Hayes, what are you even doing? We just saw in Philadelphia's last game, they haven't played since the weekend, so they have had a little bit of time off. They got absolutely pasted by New Jersey, and they started the game with the very top line they have today. They started with Frost, Tippett, Farabee, and it lasted about 35 minutes. And then the final 25 minutes of the game, they switched up the lines. And they've been doing that basically game after game. And now you're throwing in, the team running 11-7, running 11-4s. It's going to change up the lines even more. And are they really going to play JVR and Kevin Hayes as fourth liners? Like, are they really going to earn less minutes than Elliot Desnoyers or Patrick Brown or Nick Delorier? Like, I mean, it's Torts, so yeah, it's possible. I can't fathom it, but it could happen. And, maybe it's some sort of protection thing because JVR's name is in trade rumors, right? So maybe they want to, give him a little power play time, maybe throw him with Owen Tippett once in a while, kind of show him off while still protecting their asset or something like that. It's possible, but we just don't know what's going to happen with these lines. Are they going to stay together? Are they really just going to rotate somebody through a JVR Hayes pairing? Are they doing that to throw off the opposition and JVR Hayes is actually the second line and they're going to, rotate guys like Delorier and Tippett and, Noah Cates or something through it? We just have no idea what they're going to do. And on top of that, yeah, he said Desnoyers is going to get some power play time. Their, quote, top power play unit has been basically eating all the power play time they're getting. And that power play doesn't have Kevin Hayes and doesn't have James Van Riemsdyk, but it does have Rasmus Ristolainen. I honestly cannot tell you what the Flyers will do here tonight because they've been changing up so much so often. And I don't even know why they're doing the things they're doing as they are. Like, Torts has his reasons. And as much as we slag on him, I don't think he's like a bad NHL coach. Like, that's not what I'm saying here. I'm just saying that there's really no pattern to what he's doing other than Frost, some sort of combination of Frost, Tippett, Frost and Tippett on the top line, playing most of the game together, Frost, Tippett, and Farabee. Like, Farabee was there, but he wasn't the guy that was moved off the line last game, even though a week ago he was the guy that was benched and played like 6 minutes, right? Like, this is the kind of coaching that we're dealing with here. So I just don't know exactly what I would even want to play from the Flyers. And then you look at the Flyers, and I'll bring up our top stacks tool pretty quick here. The fourth most over leveraged line, I think the ninth most over leveraged line, and the 11th most over leveraged line. So 3 out of the 11 most over leveraged lines are all from the Flyers tonight. They're not really expecting much from this team. I'm not really expecting much from this team. I think that's why you see them with a 2.5 total at home in the 2022-23 regular season, which is pretty unfathomable unless you're playing like a Boston or a Carolina or something like that. Like, the Rangers are good, but they're not a Boston or a Carolina defensively. So seeing with the 2.5 total really, really worries me. Like, I guess if you're going to play anything, it's that Tippett, Frost, Farabee line. I don't know if I would full stack them. Like, the guy I might leave off is Farabee because I think he's the most likely to just face Torts' wrath and get benched in the second period. You know what I mean? But I just don't know what they're going to do here. I think the only thing I would feel comfortable with the Flyers is one-offing some players, like one-off Tippett, one-off Frost, one-offing a defenseman that we'll talk about later. But it's just frustrating because, like, in a nutshell, I would kind of be interested in playing Flyers here tonight at home against the Rangers on a short slate, with the Rangers having a pretty big debut happening tomorrow. Maybe this is a game that they could be kind of overlooking. I just have no idea what's going to happen with these line combinations, so I can't really feel comfortable about playing anything more than a 2-man stack. I think a 3-man stack from the Flyers, and I feel like this is one of those things that's just going to just come right back in my face in about 10 hours time. I feel like 3-man stacking a forward Flyers unit is just a lost cause in this game. So one-offs, fine. Stacking, no. On the Rangers side, like, basically out of principle, I'm against playing any line with Barclay Goodrow on it. So, like, I don't really have a lot of interest.
That's a good principle to live by. Don't play lines with Barclay Goodrow on it.
Don't have interest in playing Panarin, Trocheck, and Goodrow. Like, they are generating a fair amount of offense this season. Like, that particular line combination has about 85 minutes together, 5-on-5, and they're generating 3.1 expected goals for, per 60 minutes at 5-on-5, and that's good. But they're not finishing 1.4 goals per 60 minutes. That's a problem because, Goodrow's not a good finisher. Who would have thought?
And Kane, though, which we'll get to tomorrow.
Yeah, and Trocheck's been moved to the second power play unit with Tarasenko in town. So, like, I mean, I think if anything, you're probably playing a 2-man of Panarin and Trocheck, but a 2-man of Panarin and Trocheck getting there with nobody from the top line getting there, like, that feels kind of thin, but I think that's the only thing you can do with that line. They're even coming in a little bit overowned. Like, I would probably just rather go play the top line and Zibanejad, Kreider, and Tarasenko. But even saying that, like, we were talking in our Discord this morning, Zibanejad and Tarasenko have bad numbers together. Like, not like, we'll see what can happen. I mean, we'll see what can happen. They've only played about 70 minutes together, but, just flat out bad. Now, I'll say kind of a little bit of a bad stretch here. They just played Los Angeles. They were at home to Winnipeg. They played in Calgary. They played in Edmonton. They played in Carolina. Like, they're in there, but they're not generating anything. And it is a bad power play matchup. Like you said, the Flyers, they still have a really good penalty kill. Now, the goaltending on the penalty kill has started to let them down a little bit, so maybe the goaltending will let them down. I'm going to be honest, I don't have a lot of interest in stacking either side here. I really don't. I think, if anything, it would be the Rangers top line, positive leverage, 3 pretty good players, even at this point in Tarasenko's career. But I'm not really excited here, despite the 3.5 total. I don't know. Maybe you have a different insight on this Rangers team, but Goodrow's second line and the top line playing the way they are, I think I'd almost be more tempted by the kid line.
Yeah, the kids line is my favorite. And I was thinking, like, why, like, Panarin and Zibanejad don't work numbers-wise. Zibanejad and Tarasenko haven't worked. He only works really with Chris Kreider, because Chris Kreider is just like a bull and he'll go in front of the net. Like, Mika Zibanejad plays 5-on-5 like it's a power play. So, like, if he's, the Ovi office, like, they're turning the puck over and it's going the other way. So, I think Zibanejad's kind of one of those guys where, like, his numbers are going to be kind of skewed 5-on-5 just because of the way he plays. But I don't know. It is kind of a weird fit with Tarasenko, you know what I mean? Because, like, Kreider's not going to, cross ice pass a lot. So it's kind of leaving, like, Zibanejad to make the plays to get it over to Tarasenko to shoot the puck. And that's not the type of player Zibanejad is. Zibanejad is the type of player that you need a playmaker to pass him the puck so he can shoot. So that's probably why you're seeing these really low-paced numbers. So, yeah, like, I think Trocheck and Panarin are fine, but, like, Barclay Goodrow is just going to, boat anchor that line tonight. So, yeah, I don't think you need a full stack of the kids, but, like, I know Heedle's a bit expensive. Depending on what you want to do, right? Like, if you're going to power play stack like Toronto or Edmonton, you can have, like, a Heedle Lafreniere in there, Heedle Kako Lafreniere, whatever, depending on your build. But, like, again, it's like, if Torts, the one thing Torts does is gets the most out of his players defensively. You know what I mean? Like, he turned Dan Girardi into an all-star with the rank. Like, Dan Girardi is horrific, or was horrific. You know, but whatever. So, like, I kind of agree with you that I don't love either side here. If it's gonna be anything, it's gonna be something from the kids line, or just have like a one-off Panarin or a one-off Mika Zibanejad, but like nothing truly exciting on either side for me.
Yeah, I agree. There's just nothing super exciting. Maybe we'll feel different when Patty Kane's in the lineup tomorrow.
Yeah, and we'll probably be crying by 7:45 Eastern when Zibanejad has a natural hat trick in the first 6 minutes of the game, because he has 5-goal games against the Flyers. That's just what he does. Let's go. This we're going straight from boredom to hair on fire. Toronto Maple Leafs with a 3.6 total heading into Edmonton. The Oilers have a 3.3 total. Ilya Samsonov is confirmed. Jack Campbell, maybe. They haven't confirmed a goalie. Leon Draisaitl got hurt in practice yesterday. I have not seen an update. Maybe there was one before we went on the air.
I haven't seen a firm update, but he was doing media availabilities today for the Oilers, so I'm assuming he's playing. Like, injured players don't do media on game days, so I'm assuming he's in.
And Matthias Ekholm going to be in the lineup tonight, paired with Evan Bouchard, who should be top power play. He may split some time with Nurse, but Evan Bouchard's 3,500. We'll get to defenseman at the end, but he's definitely starred on my notes. Oilers lines don't matter. It doesn't matter what the lineup builder says. Doesn't matter what Top Stack says. Doesn't matter what Daily Faceoff says. Doesn't matter what the beat writers say. They're going to be different. So you're just going to stick around with the power play guys. I think the more interesting question is, which line do you prefer on the Leafs side?
Yeah, I'm going to start on the Edmonton side because I don't think it'll take as long. Like, when you said lines don't matter, they really don't. Like, we were talking about that in our Discord. The last game they played against Boston, McDavid, Yamamoto, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins were, quote, the first line, and they played 3 shifts together, and they were the first shift in each period. So after the first shift in each period, they never played together again the rest of the period. You can look game after game going back like a month. This is what the Oilers have been doing. Like, you'll see Hyman, McDavid, Yamamoto top line, and they play the first shift of the game and then never play again. That's it. That's just what the Oilers are doing. Like, one shift will be, McDavid, Hyman, RNH. The next shift will be McDavid, Draisaitl, RNH. And then the next shift will be McDavid, Yamamoto, and Ryan. And then the next shift will be McDavid, Hyman, and Ryan. Like, it's McDavid's playing like every second shift just about. And then whoever's rested is playing with them. That's basically what Edmonton's been doing for like a month now. With same thing with Leon Draisaitl, just to a less extreme extent. So that's why when we say like lines don't matter, they just don't matter. Like, there are certain players I wouldn't play with McDavid. Like, Matthias Janmark is a guy that doesn't play a lot of minutes with McDavid. He's a guy that genuinely down on I don't know if you want to call it the third line, whatever they have down there, like him and Ryan McLeod, for the most part, will largely be given some sort of third line minutes and will not play much with McDavid. But if we're talking about McDavid and Draisaitl and Hyman and Kostin and RNH and Yamamoto and even Fogle to some extent, they're all just going to be mixed together. It's literally just boggle. You put all the names on a dice, you shake it up on the bench, and then when the 3 names that come out are the 3 names that go on the ice. And then you have your 4 power play guys. That's just what they're doing. So there's nothing you can say about Edmonton. Oh, like, this is a good matchup, or these 2 players are playing well together, or these guys have been, because there's 4 guys getting a bunch of minutes, and then the rest of the team just rotates in as they're getting rested. Like, that's just it. So do what you want with Edmonton. Like, Toronto, what I will say is that Toronto did change up their lines a little bit. They put Marner, Marner's on the top line with Matthews and Bunting, and then you have Nylander down on the second line. Like, Matthews, Marner, and Bunting typically had really, really good defensive numbers together. So, any minutes they're out against Matthews could be kind of tough, but McDavid plays so many minutes, there's going to be lots of times Matthews won't be on the ice. Ryan O'Reilly and John Tavares, like they've certainly connected offensively since Ryan O'Reilly got there. And I don't think that's a huge surprise for us because, you know, you and I have been talking about how a big problem in St. Louis for O'Reilly was just that his teammates weren't finishing. And that it was, if you look at, you know, their point totals this year, yeah, it makes sense, but he was still creating a lot. Now he's creating a lot with guys that actually can finish and they're scoring goals. So yeah, that makes sense. But the defensive numbers really haven't gotten better. Small sample. He's only played 60 minutes with John Tavares. That's, you know, 5-6 games worth. It's not a lot, but the defensive numbers have been pretty static. So I think there is that matchup you can take advantage of in the second line. And then, you know, Toronto traded Pierre Engvall, and
that's a big
my mentions have been filled with Leafs fans that just absolutely hate this guy for whatever reason. And I get
he's their best bottom six forward.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. Like, okay, maybe consistency is something that was brought up a lot to me. And, you know, I think that's fair, but I would rather have a guy that's inconsistent that can be really, really good than a guy that's inconsistent that, you know, vacillates between absolutely god-awful and league average, which is the rest of their bottom six. It could make it a little bit weaker. So I think there could be some good matchups. It's just how often does McDavid get away from Matthews at 5-on-5? That's the only question. But, you know, McDavid certainly has been on an absolute tear lately. 14 points and 32 shots in his last 5 games. He's averaging nearly a DraftKings points bonus a game over his last 5 games.
That's a season for Pierre Engvall.
So, like, you know, I have no problem even one-offing, because there are a ton of cheap spots you can go to. I don't mind a one-off McDavid here. I don't know how much I'm super excited about playing Edmonton, because Edmonton's big thing is their power play. That's how they accrue a lot of their fantasy value. Toronto doesn't take very many penalties. They're below average in that regard. Penalty kills have like generally been well above average the entire season. So it's not really a great power play matchup. Like, there's not a lot of ownership on Edmonton. So if you want to do like a McDavid RNH 2-man, like Nugent Hopkins, I think that's fine. Both power play, probably going to play a fair bit together at 5-on-5. That's about it. Like, Leon Draisaitl's not a guy that I'm really interested in one-offing or something like that. I think it's McDavid, RNH, maybe Hyman, but McDavid and RNH in particular that I have interest in because they have good offensive numbers together this season. They probably should get some second line and third line matchups at times in this game. And there's not a lot of ownership on them. So I don't mind that, but that's about it for me from Edmonton. On the Toronto side, like, I think both top lines are very much in play here. Who starts in net would actually change a little bit of how I view Edmonton here, because I would have a lot more interest in Toronto if it is Jack Campbell in net. But, you know, they have a day off tomorrow. It is a back-to-back coming up this weekend, so maybe they want to rest Skinner a little bit, but he'll have a day off, so I'm expecting it'll be Skinner. That doesn't make me super excited for Toronto. Not only that, but Toronto's really started to nuke the ice time of the top guys. I don't know if people have seen that since Ryan O'Reilly got there, but even before that, Austin Matthews has only been averaging about 18 minutes a game over his last 10 games. Toronto's in cruise control. Like, they basically locked up their playoff matchup. They're almost certainly playing Tampa Bay in the first round. They don't have a lot to play for over the next 6 weeks. So, you know, not playing Austin Matthews 22 minutes a night when the games don't really matter makes sense to me. I don't know. I think if anything, I would be much more interested in Toronto too. Yes, they are quite a bit cheaper. Well, not quite a bit cheaper. I guess it depends what you do with Bunting and if you include him or not. But coming in with a lot less ownership, I think there's a reasonable chance somebody like Ryan O'Reilly or somebody like William Nylander could have more ice time than Austin Matthews here tonight. What worries me is that it's Edmonton and it is a premier center matchup. And it's kind of like, you know, when Crosby and McDavid are up against each other, or Bergeron and McDavid or something, like, they tend to play more minutes. And that's a little bit of a concern. I think given what we think we'll get for minutes from Toronto 1 here tonight, I think Toronto 2 is still my favorite line. And, you know, John Tavares, 16 shots in his last 5 games with Ryan O'Reilly there. Ryan O'Reilly has 6 points in 5 games, or Tavares has 6 points in his last 5 games. I'm not really worried about that, the middle of that Edmonton defense, because Ekholm will probably be going out against Matthews quite a bit. So Tavares gets to avoid Ekholm. So I think it's Toronto 2 and then McDavid and RNH in this game for me.
Yeah, I like Toronto 2 better. I think Matthews' line is fine here. Just to kind of hammer home your point about Edmonton power play and the Toronto PK, on top of that, you had a tweet on Twitter about Samsonov's penalty kill save percentage. It's just like ridiculously high. Whether that, it's going to regress, but will it tonight? I don't know. You know what I mean? So, like, yeah, you saw McDavid go up against Bergeron and score 2 goals.
Yeah.
Matchup proof.
Yeah. No, he's absolutely matchup proof. I'm not saying like fade McDavid tonight or anything. He's in play every single night. And if people aren't really going to play him, he's 16% on a 6-game slate. Maybe that comes into like 20 to 25. That feels fine for me. Yeah. I think I would attach another guy to him, like an RNH or maybe a Bouchard or something like that. But like McDavid's still firmly in play. It's just, what do I want a 3-man stack? And there's really not a lot from Edmonton.
I don't know if I'm going to go out and like try to jam in Edmonton power play here tonight. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like maybe, all these new defensemen for Toronto, they take a whole bunch of penalties. They're not acclimated to the system. I know Luke Shen and Gustafsson are not playing tonight, which is actually better for the Leafs defensively. But like Jake McCabe is new there. They just traded Sandin. They have a lot of moving parts on the blue line. You can see them kind of being flat, not knowing what the heck to do. But like, again, like jamming in McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, or Nugent Hopkins, whatever it is so impingent on your, like, it's so intrusive on your salary cap that like you can do it. It's just, there's reasons not to. But again, McDavid's matchup proof. You put him with Bouchard, you put him with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Like those are like, not, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is the guy he plays the most with. So, basically I'm trying to talk myself into what I'm doing with Edmonton, and I haven't figured it out. But I'm just thinking out loud with you guys. But yeah, let's move on. As we mentioned off the top, we are sponsored by Prize Picks. Thank you very much. You can get 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum, up to $100 deposit match bonus when you sign up and make a deposit with Prize Picks. Prize Picks. If you are not in a legal state for gambling, like Florida, Texas, Idaho, California, this is where you need to be. It's daily prop based contests. So like on this slate, I haven't really looked at the Prize Picks card, but anytime McDavid's on the slate and he has a goal prop, just bet the goal prop. Like McDavid has 50 goals before the trade deadline. That's just absolute bonkers. So yeah, like I like the McDavid goal prop there. You don't have to deal with other people like, Jake taking your money. You're playing against each other. You can go up to a 5-player lineup that can 10x your entry fee. Make sure if you're interested in this offer, you click the link in the description below. That will help us out. It'll help you out. You'll get Stokastic Plus Platinum for a month, which is a $120 value, and a $100 deposit match bonus. So basically, by clicking the link in the description, you can get up to $220 for free. Let's move on to the next game here.
And I will say, part of that package is the player prop tool, right? Because that's something that we can use, and we do use, for shot and goal props. And I'll bring it up real quick. It has the line. Now, lines will change based on where you're betting from, obviously, but it has the line, has our projection, the expected win rate, and the expected ROI. So you can sort by ROI or win rate or what have you, and it gives you the best bets, whether shots or goals. So, Seth Jarvis under 2.5 shots is the highest expected ROI today. We have him projected to just slightly over 2 shots. So Seth Jarvis on the under shots is, it's right there in the player prop, right at the top. You can throw a few in your Prize Picks and move along. It takes 10 seconds. It's a nice little handy tool.
Yeah. Thank you for mentioning that. I know a lot of people use it. Our good pal Big Turk, I'm not sure what he's going to bet tonight. John Gaudreau not on the slate, so he might be a little lost. We'll direct him to that tool. Maybe we'll bet the Jarvis one, but let's move on to the next one. Arizona Coyotes with a 2.2 total heading into Dallas. The Stars have a 3.8 total. Coyotes played last night, so Connor Ingram and Jake Ottinger confirmed. Oh, boy. We were talking a little bit about Pavelski in our Discord this morning. He has 3 goals in his last 27 games. 0 goals, 8 assists in his last 16 games, coming in almost 30% projected tonight. That is a spicy meatball. Now, this is a very good power play matchup, and he is, involved in the power play. Dallas One, probably the highest owned stack projected right now. I don't have top stacks up, but I would imagine they're coming in over 28% right now. If you're worried about Pavelski, you can always leave him off and add in Jamie Benn. You save $100. Oh, and we just got a new top stacks run. Their ownership dropped to under 25%, and the Coyotes total dropped from 2.2 to 2. Yeah, so I'm kind of surprised that the Coyotes total is that low. It's back-to-back on the road. I get that. Like, Jake Ottinger just got lit up like a Christmas tree his last game. The Coyotes top line is pretty good. This is a brutal matchup, but I guess, probably won't get to Coyotes in 1-3, but they're interesting. That top line's interesting in MME for me, coming in at 1% despite the total. This is more about, if you want to eat the chalk with Dallas One or you want to move down the lineup a little bit with some Dallas Two, but they're even coming in with a lot of ownership.
Yeah, it is interesting to see where Arizona is, because like you said, there's not that much ownership on them, and they have played well. Like, we just finished February. In the month of February, they generated 3.4 expected goals for 60 minutes at 5-on-5 and scored 5.4 actual goals. So they were generating and scoring quite a bit, 57% expected goal share. That's really, really good. Not coming in with any ownership tonight. I was trying to think about why that might be. Well, not ownership, but not much of a projection. I think part of it probably has to be the Dallas penalty kill. The penalty kill has generally been really, really good this season. I can't imagine that, Evgeny Dadonov would have any significant impact, and especially not on a game day drop like that. So I'm wondering what's going on. Maybe there's a trade in the works that we don't really know about just yet. That's something that always comes up. Maybe there's, Shane Gostisbehere's name's out there. He's still been playing. Maybe there's somebody that has inside information that Gostisbehere's on his way out the door or something like that. I guess we'll find out. Yes, Ottinger just got lit up, but it's still a pretty bad matchup. Going back nearly 2 months, that Dallas top line, 2.3 expected goals against per 60 minutes, 2.6 actual goals against. Just Ottinger not playing as well is the only reason why their defensive numbers look anywhere close to league average. Other than that, they've been a lot better than league average. So it is a pretty brutal matchup for Arizona One. I'm not playing them in a single entry. I don't think you really have to in this matchup on this slate with, there are a ton of options in that price range, a ton of low owned options in that price range that you can get to. Like, playing a 1% Carolina or a 3% Vegas line that are projected for roughly the same doesn't mean a lot to me on a 6-game slate. It just doesn't. If there are $100,000 entry contest, that would be one thing. If you're playing 450 people in a $12 single entry, don't worry about it. So there are other spots that I would rather go to. And then there's not a lot in the Arizona depth I really want to play. Shout out Jack McBain for his game last night. I was kind of hoping to play that Arizona second line last night. That went out the window, and then McBain scores. That's another story for another day. One-off Lawson Krause is something I'll always say. And, I think that Dallas second line matchup wouldn't be that bad for them. So I think a one-off Lawson Krause or something like that is perfectly acceptable, but I'm not stacking the Arizona side. Question is what to do with Dallas, because like you said, there is a ton of ownership coming in on them. 24.5%. They're going to be the highest owned line tonight. I know we have that Washington top line pretty close to them, but I think Dallas won because they're not like 23K or 24K. They're pretty reasonably priced. You can put another good line with them. I wouldn't be surprised to see them coming closer to 30% in some contests. They haven't really been playing well. You mentioned Joe Pavelski, but just as an entire line, going back nearly 2 months, 3.1 expected goals for, 1.9 actual goals for, shooting 5.7%. Now, obviously, the shooting percentage is a big part of it. But even if that shooting percentage, jumps up to league average, they're still only a little bit above league average in scoring because the amount they're actually generating, the shots they're generating per minute, has just been on a steady decline pretty much. And Connor Ingram's no joke. I know people, we love the Melky here. Don't get me wrong. We're big veggie guys. But I know people that were pretty big fans of Connor Ingram when he was in Nashville. It's just they had Saros. There's one. They had Saros and still signed for 2 more years after this one, I think. And they had the best goalie prospect in the world in Askarov coming up. So it's like, what are you going to do with Ingram? So now he's in Arizona. There were, you and I know people in Nashville that follow the team that were fans of him and thought he would be the number 2 and thought it was, Askarov might be traded for a huge haul, and then they just turned the keys over to Saros and Ingram. But they're not, and now Ingram's in Arizona. He's having a really good season. Goals saved above expected. He's basically neck and neck with Vejmelka. So whether he's actually a good goalie or not, it'll take years to find out. But he's had a pretty good season so far, and I wouldn't bank on him being some bad AHL backup or something like that, like we might see in New Jersey sometimes. That's a little bit of a concern. So if you're asking me to play a line that might not be coming in with that much positive leverage and might be close to 1 out of every 3 lineups, I think you can fade Dallas 1 here tonight. I know that's scary. They are extremely playable, and I'm not going to say don't play them. I'm just saying I think if they're going to come in between 25 and 30%, Ingram's not really terrible. The team is the top line has really had a lot of trouble generating offense, let alone scoring goals over the last 2 months. I think there are reasons to fade Dallas 1. It's just, what do you do with the depth?
Arizona 1, that's not even a very good matchup for Dallas 1. Arizona 1's actually been pretty decent defensively for an Arizona line.
But I mean, roughly league average, which for an Arizona line, yes, is really, really good. So I think I might be more tempted with the Dallas depth, but the Dallas depth is really coming in over owned. I think I would rather play the Ben Johnston to Donoff line. And I know they're coming in with more ownership, but it's two things. One, Tyler Seguin hasn't found his game. I don't care what anyone says. This is not the player that he was 4 or 5 years ago. Maybe he needs more time, but he's not there yet. And Mason Marchment literally hasn't scored. I think it's up to 25 games now.
Well, you know what's coming.
Oh, yeah, he's due.
He's scoring tonight.
Yeah, so, I mean, a Ben Johnston 2-man, Ben to Donoff, I think something like that is perfectly fine. Dallas top line is fine, but I think I'd rather just pick up some pieces from the depth than play the top line here. Like I said, nothing from the Arizona side.
Yeah, don't even mind just a Ben one-off just because he's up the net front on the power play. He's usually involved. Wyatt Johnson, cheap center. He's a good player. People have – the secret's out on him, though, in DFS. He's not going to be low-owned like he usually is. The secret's out. So, that line's going to be over-owned compared to their price and their top stack probability, but would I rather play 9% Wyatt Johnson and Jamie Benn than 30% Rope Hintz and Jason Robertson? Depends on the rest of your lineup. You know what I mean? If you love Dallas 1 tonight, load them in. This is the matchup for him. If you're looking to be over the field of McDavid, I think you can go Wyatt Johnson, Jamie Benn, but it's a matter of preference, really. Pavelski worries me. It's hard to set, he can get there in one game, obviously. He's had a track record now of a quarter of a season of not scoring, or a third of a season. The last 27 games, he has 3 goals. That's a third of a season. So, maybe he turns it around, maybe he doesn't. He's 38, which is ancient for NHL. I'm 36 and I look like I'm 63, but 38 is just really old for NHL. Maybe, he just doesn't have it. Maybe he's hit what's the adage in baseball? Something about August,
Dog days of August.
Dog days of August. Maybe he's kind of hit his
and there's also the other thing too. I don't want to belabor this too long, but Dallas is one of those teams that has had basically nothing to play for since Christmas, right? Like they had such a good start to the season. Winnipeg was in first place in the division. Minnesota was neck and neck with them. Everybody else sucks so much that those were probably going to be the top three in the division 4 months later when the playoffs started in April. So I also kind of wonder just how much Joe Pavelski really cares about, game 61 when game 41 barely mattered to their final standings. You know what I mean? But, until I actually see a turnaround, it's really tough to put my money there.
Yeah, anything can happen in one night, but I don't know. The sample's getting larger is all we'll finish that off and say. Let's move on to the next one. New Jersey Devils with a 3 total heading into Colorado. The Avs also have a 3 total. Vitek Vanacek and Justice Anuin confirmed. Timo Meier probably not playing tonight. Could play, but probably not. Devils going to go with Sharangovich, Hughes, and Bratton, and Tatar, Mercer, and Heischer. Don't know too much about Justice Anuin. Is he like a prospect, or is he just a guy?
I mean, he's technically a prospect. I'm not going to pretend that I'm sitting here grinding AHL goalie tape.
He's not Jonas Johansson.
No, he's not Jonas Johansson. What I gather from him is like if things work out well, he could turn into like a bottom end starter, like a guy like 25 to 32 amongst starting goalies.
Serviceable backup.
Likely a serviceable backup. I don't think you need to be much more than a serviceable backup to be good in DFS, but I do think I would expect a step down from Georgiev, obviously.
Yeah. This is an interesting game because there really is not that much ownership. Hughes and Bratton, Sharangovich historically and this season have very good numbers. They're coming in under 5%. Dawson Mercer is like blossoming as he's playing. I can't believe I'm praising the Devils because since the Devils traded for Timo Meier, the Devils fans around my area have come out of hibernation, and it's nauseating. But I don't know. I think there's 4 playable lines in this game. It's just a matter of what you want to do.
Yeah, there is 4 playable lines. I'd even say 5 because I think the New Jersey third line is kind of playable because Andre Palat is on the top power play unit, so could do like a Palat Bogfist. But anyways, should mention obviously lots of news on the Colorado side. Annunen starts as we're making fun of him. Cale Makar was practicing today and was taking full contact in practice, but they said he's not going to play tonight. They're going to hold him out probably for at least one more game. So no Makar again tonight. Bowen Byram back on the top power play unit as he was 2 games ago, I believe. So Bowen Byram running the top power play for Colorado. No Makar. And Lars Eller could play. They said he's leaving Anaheim basically right now to meet the team in Colorado, and he would count points tonight because at least on DraftKings, because the way DraftKings works, if there's a trade, as long as both teams are on the same slate, the player will accrue points. So because Washington plays tonight, Lars Eller will accrue points for Colorado if he's in the Colorado lineup. So that's just something to make note of. But he's listed as a winger, and I imagine if he does play, it would be, on the third line, maybe getting like 12 minutes or something like that. So like I said, he's not a guy I would go out to play. Like, I'm not looking forward to playing a Lars Eller, Dennis Mulligan 2-man stack here tonight. You know what I mean? So, yeah. What I want to do is start on the Colorado side. We were talking. I was talking in the Discord about Colorado's numbers without Cale Makar this year, and they are pretty drastic, especially the defensive numbers, which I think kind of makes sense because Bowen Byram missed so much time, right? So if Byram and Makar were out, you were either playing with Gerard or you were playing with the Eric Johnson, McDermott tier of players, of defensemen or whatever, right? So maybe with Byron back, it helps a little bit, but
the McKinnon defensive numbers, the top line defensive numbers, when they were with anybody else but Cale Makar on the blue line, were bad, like really, really bad, allowing a lot of shots against. And that's even with Devin Taves on the ice with them. So I'm kind of digging the New Jersey side here more than I am the Colorado side. I don't have any problem playing either of the Colorado lines. I'll say that flat out. You have two guys on the top line on the top power play unit. You have two guys on the second line on the top power play unit. Both lines are coming in with positive leverage. Neither line is super expensive. New Jersey's not like a brutal, terrible matchup. So I have no problem playing either of the Colorado lines. Nichushkin really hasn't been doing a lot since he came back. He only has 24 shots in his last 10 games. Arturi Lehkonen only has 23 in his last 10 games, and he's not on the power play anymore. Like I said, McKinnon's been getting caved in defensively when Cale Makar's not in the lineup. So I'm kind of interested in playing the New Jersey side. It's just a matter of which line. Like you said, Hughes, Bratt, and Sharangovich, pretty good offensive numbers. They're up to 105 minutes together. 4.1 expected goals for per 60 minutes of 5-on-5, but giving up 3.5 against. So they're just trading chances. The problem is they're only shooting 6.7%. Now, if that climbs to like 9.5%, which isn't that high at all, like all of a sudden they're scoring 4+ goals per 60 minutes and they're an elite scoring line. I expect McKinnon to get a fair bit of the matchup against Jack Hughes, and I expect them to just trade chances back and forth. So I don't have problems with either the Hughes or the McKinnon line. But given that the Hughes line is cheaper and not coming in with much ownership, Colorado's playing their AHL goalie, and the defensive issues have been very obvious without Cale Makar, I have a lot of interest in that Jack Hughes, Bratt, Sharangovich line. Now, like I always say, if you want to turn it into a power play stack, take off Sharangovich and add Hischier, make it a double center, something like that. I think that's fine. But it's the Jack Hughes line I like the best by quite a bit. I think the Hischier line is perfectly fine. As long as Hischier has Tatar next to him, his numbers have been great, and Mercer's not going to hurt that. So I think they're fine. The Hischier line is fine as a fillery type stack, but it is the Hughes line I like the best in this game, and by quite a bit.
Yeah, I agree there. I was just going through Twitter. Dylan Larkin just signed an extension, 8 years, $8.7 million a year.
That feels like a steal.
Yeah, I thought he was going to get more. I thought he was going to be close to 10.
I thought the holdup was like he was asking like 10.5 million, and they were like, "No, we won't pay more than 9.5." This is what they were fighting over.
It's
Come on, Steve.
It's Detroit. People get hit by scooters or by cars when they're on their scooters. I don't know. It seems like a pretty good deal there. Yeah. No, I agree with you on the Hughes line. It's probably my favorite one in this game. I also don't mind going to Colorado one here. Just like it's going to be pond hockey. So, yeah. Let's move on to the Caps. The Washington Capitals with a 3.7 total heading into Anaheim. Los Patos, Los Duckies have a 2.8 total. Darcy Kemper probable. Juanito John Gibson is confirmed. Hey, 3.7 total. Massive ownership on the Caps top line here. Don't want to play him. The depth is kind of meh. I just don't like full stacking the Caps. And I don't want to one-off Ovechkin when he's coming in over 20%. But on the flip side, these Ducks numbers that you put into the Discord would make me want to play my dogs against the Ducks. I don't know. I hate the Capitals for DFS, but you have to strongly consider them here.
Yeah. I mean, what I will say, I'll just start quickly on the Anaheim side. I have no interest in that Strome, Silverberg, Zegras line. None. I was looking at the numbers earlier. With Zegras and Silverberg together on the ice, Anaheim is generating 0.7 expected goals per 60 minutes and about 29 shot attempts per 60 minutes. To put that into perspective,
The New York Rangers are generating 25 shot attempts when Chris Kreider is on the ice on the penalty kill. I swear to God, the Zegras-Silfverberg duo is generating a little bit more per minute than penalty kills do. No, I'll let other people play them at 8 or 9% or whatever. It's Terry McTavish Jones that I might have some interest in playing. Terry and McTavish do have been at least close to league average by expected goals for when it comes to offensive generation. Max Jones does absolutely nothing, like literally nothing. Like I don't think there's anything he's less than one standard deviation below average at when it comes to like shot assists, scoring chance creation and all that. Like nothing, like he's nothing. So, it would still be his line that I would play. It'd be Terry McTavish and Jones, but there's too much ownership. All these lines suck. One off McTavish, one off Jones, like those types of things, like I'm fine with. But again, this is a situation where I'm not 3-man stacking Anaheim. On the Washington side, Kuznetsov and Wilson have been generating a fair bit together. I think they're certainly fine to play, but at 24% and Wilson kind of not really looking great coming off his surgery. Like, I think you can fade them. I wouldn't fade them outright. Like, I don't fade Washington in like a Washington line with Ovechkin on it. What I would do, I do have a lot more interest in the depth, particularly Oshie Strome Milano line. That line's at 3.1 expected goals generated in their time together. Milano and Oshie generally bad defensive numbers, but it's Anaheim. Like, who cares if you have bad defensive numbers? It doesn't matter against Anaheim. Oshie's on the top power play unit, has 15 shots in his last 5 games. I know they're coming in with a ton of ownership, but I think you can do something like Oshie, Strome, Ovechkin and take off Milano, right? Like, I think that's something you can do. I think you can 2-man Oshie, Ovechkin or something like that. Those types of things are certainly in play here. I have no interest in the Anaheim side. I think I do like that Washington 2 line, but I would, if I play them, I think it would be with Alex Ovechkin. Like, I'm not a guy that plays Washington without Ovechkin. Final thing we'll mention is watch for Rasmus Sandin. He was traded to Washington for Erik Gustafsson by Toronto, and because Toronto's on this slate, as I mentioned earlier, in that Lars Eller thing, if Sandin's in the lineup tonight and he is on his way to Anaheim to play, it is an immigration problem that's holding things up. If he's in tonight, he's probably going to the top power play unit at 3K. Something to keep in mind.
Yeah. Question. Since they're coming in with similar ownership, would you rather play Dallas 1 or Washington 1?
Dallas.
I think
I would just play Dallas. Like, if I had the choice between a home and a road team, it would be the home team. And we actually have a long sample of Dallas 1 being good together. Washington, there's no real guarantee this line makes it through this game. So yeah, it's Dallas 1.
Even if the Caps are home, my answer would be Dallas.
Okay, fair enough.
It's just, similar. They've both been struggling. So, man, like, lots of moving parts on the blue lines here tonight. So just make sure you guys are playing. Who you liking? Like, the Ducks are dressing God knows who on the blue line tonight. Oh, we have one more game.
Yeah, I was wondering what you were doing there, but I mean, we don't really have to talk about it, but I think we should.
I forgot that we have the Hurricanes Golden Knights, which is like, you hardly ever see a good East versus West matchup nowadays. This is a pretty good one. Carolina Hurricanes 3.2 total heading into Vegas. Golden Knights have a 2.8. Freddie Anderson, Aiden Hill probable. Ivan Barbashev in the player pool now, still up on the top line with Marchessault and Eichel. This is a tough matchup on both sides. Don't have a ton of interest in 1 to 3 on both sides. I think, the question comes in 20 to 150 max. I think there are some things you can start working in, specifically the Aho, Svechnikov, Jarvis line.
Yeah, all 3 Carolina lines are sporting some pretty good defensive numbers now. That's what makes it a particularly brutal matchup is like before, sometimes there are certain line combinations where Aho doesn't have great defensive metrics. This one he does. The second line has even better defensive metrics, and then you have the Jordan Staal line. Like, it is a pretty brutal matchup for Vegas. What I will say is Vegas won. The Vegas top line had been generating a lot with Paul Cotter there. 2.9 expected goals for, 3.8 actual goals for. And Ivan Barbashev is a better offensive player. Like, Barbashev, he's terrible defensively, but he likes to shoot the puck and he's good in transition. Those are the kinds of things that will play well alongside Jack Eichel. So I think they could be a good offensive line. Like, that Vegas line is one of those lines I would rather play than Arizona 1 here tonight, in that 16 to 17K range over on DraftKings. So I don't really mind Vegas 1. I think you can even leave Marchessault off if you want. Like, Marchessault is at like 2.8 shots per game over his last 15 games, 2.7, and he was moved to the second power play unit. Not sure I'm super digging that. So I think you can just do like an Eichel Barbashev 2-man. I know it's a brutal matchup. The Carolina goaltending really hasn't been great this year outside of Kochetkov. And Carolina's had a little bit of time off, and they're in Vegas. So, you know, maybe they're feeling a little hungover tonight. But that Vegas top line has been generating a lot, and I think Barbashev is going to fit in perfectly well with them. So I don't mind a Barbashev Eichel 2-man. I think that's it for me from Vegas. The Riley Smith, Carlson, Amadio line is interesting to me. 2 out of the 3 guys are on the top power play unit, and they do have really good offensive numbers this season together. I don't mind that Smith, Carlson, Amadio line as one of those fillers. Like, if you're playing a super expensive Edmonton stack or a super expensive Toronto stack or something, I don't mind Vegas 2 as one of those filler lines. But, you know, I think it's Eichel and Barbashev I like most. On the Carolina side, it's the top line. It really is. Like, the second line still really isn't generating a lot. Like, they're just a lot of quality anyway. They're just generating a lot of shot attempts and riding percentages. It is the top line that I do like the best here, but not really a great matchup for them. I think it's more like if you have 20 lineups, I might have 1 or 2 Carolina ones. I don't know if I'm going to get there in single entry, but they have been great. 6.2 expected goals for. That is absolutely absurd. Going back to last year in 225 plus minutes together, they're over 4 expected goals generated. It's a great line. And the Vegas goaltending has been shaky at times. So I don't mind Carolina 1 here, but I think this is a game that's, other than maybe using that Smith-Carlson line as a filler type stack, I think this is a game where it's more MME or picking one-offs or something.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you can get to them in 1 to 3 if it is Aiden Hill, if it's Logan Thompson. Like, I don't know. Like, Vegas is still a pretty good team. Be an interesting contrarian option in 1 to 3 if it is Hill. But I think I'm going to look elsewhere in my lineup tonight. Now we can talk about the little fellas that we call defensemen. But before we do that, as I mentioned at the top, coming up after us at 4 p.m., we have the Odds Shop with A10 and former Iowa State University caddy Eric Lindquist at 4 p.m. on the Odd Shopper channel. Make sure to stay tuned for that. He's going to kill me, but it's all right. A lot of moving parts on the blue lines tonight. So who you liking?
There are a lot of moving parts. I should say that I've been working away on building our lineup here tonight, using our lineup builder.
Correct.
The question is kind of, what you wanted to go with. I think I found a pretty good start to our lineups. Just let me bring it up here real quick. We have our lineup builder that shows, this is DraftKings. You can do FanDuel as well. DraftKings that shows, the stock projection. It shows what the player's projection is, their ownership, salary, what line they're on and all that. I use this to help me build single lineups. So I'm just going to use chalky Dallas 1, Anaheim with Gibson in net, and then Simon Benoit on the blue line. It's just something cheap to put together. See what else we could fit in. And I was thinking we could do that New Jersey 2 or Colorado 2 stack, but I don't think there's anything else that I really want to do. So I'm just going to sneak in that New Jersey 2 stack we were talking about. Leaves us with 1 expensive defenseman. So let's talk about those defensemen.
Burns and Fox are the two expensive defensemen I like here tonight, but I'm not super in love. Like Burns got moved to the top power play unit. I think that's worth noting because Vegas's penalty kill has been kind of on a little bit of a slide here lately. Vegas's PK allowing the fourth most shots against over the last 20 games. The goaltending has been great. The Carolina top power play with Burns there has been good. Don't mind Burns. In the mid-price range, I think Bowen Byram for sure. Maybe Morgan Riley for Toronto. Miro Heiskanen, I guess, is fine in that matchup. I think he's probably going to come in with too much ownership for my liking. Cheap guys, John Marino, Troy Stetcher, Martin Fairbury for sure. Evan Bouchard, I think, is the top defenseman under 4K on this slate. Almost guaranteed to run the top power play unit for Edmonton. Rasmus Sandin, if we can get any sort of indication that he's in the lineup, don't mind Braden McNabb either.
Sandin would be the interesting one because it's a later game. He's 3K, and he's probably going to be top power play. So if you are interested in that, I would lock in a late defenseman in that spot, and you can always swap to Sandin because 3K top power play against the Ducks.
Yeah, exactly. And there are players you could swap to. Like there's Haig, there's Benoit, there's White Cloud, there's Matt Irwin. I think if he's in the lineup, Beaulieu for Anaheim. So there are swaps you can make if Sandin isn't in. And use one of the expensive defensemen to finish off our lineup. So there we go. We have Dallas 1, New Jersey 2, Benoit and Fox on the blue line with Gibson and net. 96-point projection. Don't really hate it.
Pretty good projection.
Don't really hate it.
Yeah, it's seemed to come together pretty easily too, which always makes me nervous with the Dallas in there. But they're going to be popular. Who you liking for your hat trick? Oh no, man, I am just up against it today. Who you liking in net?
I mean, Gibson is my guy tonight. I think Aiden Hill for Vegas. Like any goalie facing Carolina is always going to be a guy I like to play. That's basically about it. Those are basically the only two goalies. I didn't mind Georgiev, but now that it's Annunen starting, that's a hard pass for me. I think Stuart Skinner's fine at home against Toronto. It's just, I get not wanting to play goalies against Toronto. You know what I mean?
Since we'll definitely get asked this question, any interest in Connor Ingram?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think he's perfectly fine. I think I would probably just rather play Gibson because he's at home with the rest of the team. But absolutely, I would play Connor Ingram tonight. If for some reason Stolarz was playing and not Gibson, I know Stolarz is hurt. I would probably play Ingram tonight.
Yeah, I'm on board with that as well. That's not how you use leverage in NHL, but he is going to see a ton of shots for under 7K against the chalky team. Who are you liking for your hat trick pick?
Going pretty chalky. I don't think it's chalky, but I am going expensive, and I'm going with Jack Hughes from the New Jersey Devils.
There are so many Hughes going to be in the NHL the next few years. It's going to be very complicated.
Yeah.
Those Hughes fellas. I don't know how spicy this is, considering he is projected for 7% ownership, but go with Troy Terry.
Oh, I think that is spicy.
That is kind of spicy.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I keep it a little bit spicy. So for Cliff and Sway, Josh, we'll be back on a nice Thursday slate. Make sure to click the links in the description for the prize picks and to get 50% off the weekly or monthly NHL package that includes that lineup builder that we went through. So good luck, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow, or we'll see it another time.
Good luck tonight, everyone.